Yeah, we salute members of the RAF. As you know, I've flown with the RAF, what it does show you is how incredible these men and women are, because it's a terrifying experience. Amazing, but terrifying. OK, let's have a look through the papers this morning. Comedian Kate Smurthwaite and writer Benedict Spence are here. Good morning.
Morning.
Nice to see you. Let's kick straight off with the Sunday Times, Kate. We've been looking at this already this morning, looking at children's burial fees. This actually a hugely important story.
It is. It's enormous, and it's enormous because, firstly, you can't believe that this has never happened before. This has got to have come up as an issue. But we've had a situation where parents have lost a child, and they've been told they have to pay a pretty sizable amount of money.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
You know, a three or even sometimes four-figure sum for these burial fees. And so you've ended up with parents having their child's remains buried in a cardboard box. You've ended up with parents not being able to get the ashes because they are unable to pay the fee to do that. You've had parents having to borrow money, which, of course, you know, it's never borrowing money at short notice. It's never going to get you a fair deal or the right rate, is it? But it's over. You know, Theresa May's put aside 10 million and we're going to do things better. And unfortunately, it went so far that it didn't happen until an actual MP faced this problem herself and started exactly this campaign. Caroline Harris went through exactly this, and you know that suddenly brought it to the attention of everybody, and so she's quite rightly started a huge campaign and loads of people getting involved. And the good news is, you know, if you do find an issue and go for it, things can change, and on this one they have.
And is this going to be available to all families? Do we know?
I think it's going to be available to those that need it. I don't think that. I think, you know, it's already. What we're hoping is, because this already exists in Wales, so we're now getting it in England. So on the assumption that it works roughly the same way in England that it does in Wales, it'll come down to those that need it and whatever, and you just have to apply for it.
Yeah.
And hopefully not too traumatic a process, because obviously these are people going through quite enough trauma already.
Yeah.
Benedict, take us into the Observer. This is the anti-Semitism row, which refuses to go away, still plaguing Jeremy Corbyn.
Leading Jewish donor ditches Labour over anti-Semitism. It just seems to go from bad to worse for the Labour Party and Jeremy Corbyn at the moment, anyway. As much as anything else, I'm amazed it's taken somebody this long for somebody high-profile to actually abandon the party and say enough is enough. Lord Levy was on Newsnight the other night and made the very good point that actually he didn't feel he ought to be forced out. This was his party. The Labour Party and the Labour movement should stand for everybody. Why should anybody be made to feel unwelcome? But given the level of anti-Semitism that seems to be coming out of the woodwork, it's hardly surprising that somebody high-profile has said enough is enough.
Extraordinary, though, isn't it? I mean, you wonder how much credence to give it all, in that when the Labour Party has built its roots and its traditions on being this sort of fair-for-all, you know, equality-based party. I mean, I find it extraordinary that people who could claim to be members of the Labour Party, or claim to support Labour, could hold such views. It seems to be the antithesis of what Labour stands for.
Well, it's interesting, and it comes down to the fact that anti-Semitism is a very particular kind of racism, of bigotry, and one of the key issues that comes up around anti-Semitism is this myth that Jewish people are somehow secretly running the whole world. And so, unlike a lot of other kinds of racism and discrimination, this is almost the sort of the myth of it, and the nastiness of it is these people are secretly in charge, rather than these people are not as good as others. It's these people have some mystic power. So there is a sense that this is the one kind of bigotry that is more likely on the left than the right. But you know, that's not to say that there aren't problems right across the board. And of course, there are people, as with all of these things, they're more to do with a wider societal attitude. It's simply not the case that our society contains all these nice people and a couple of people with nasty attitudes. These attitudes are ingrained in our society, and you know, it's not about rooting out one or two people. It's about looking at the widespread attitude and going, how can we make sure that this doesn't feed into affecting people's lives and into being a
Well, this is right. I mean, the anti-Semitism, of course, goes back millennia, if we're going to be completely honest. It is deeply ingrained in our society from Christianity. All the reasons for that anti-Semitism, if you look at the teachings of certain faiths, Jews being Christ killers, being responsible for the death of the head of Christianity, that sort of it's not so that it's not relevant anymore, but there is a certain element of it that has remained in the same way that there's a certain element of anti-Catholicism, or today you get a lot of Islamophobia. These myths, these ideas, they do perpetuate, they do hang around. The issue, of course, on the political left in the Labour Party is that a very small minority of Jewish people, in spite of the persecution for their religion, for their ethnicity, for everything that they've been through, some of them have become very successful. And the political left has used that to tar absolutely all of them with this idea of, conspiracies about controlling the global order and all that sort of thing. It's really vile stuff. You don't quite get that same thing on the political right, I don't feel.
I still think that it's about an attitude that exists across societies, and it's just that thing of where are we looking for it? The truth is that there are people in every political party with views that are pretty horrible. And actually, we've had this, for example, very recently with the Toby Young thing, where we go, oh, here's this guy, we're going to put him. Oh, hang on, let's just look back through stuff he's said historically. Oh, some of this is awful. That of course there are huge parts of the left that build their whole policy based on Marx and Trotsky, two of the most celebrated Jewish philosophers and thinkers in history. So the idea that this is exclusive to the left, it's not. But at the moment, this is where we've identified some cases, some situations that need sorting out.
I do think that that's specifically where the issues on the left come from. I don't disagree that anti-Semitism is something that seems to just strike all sides of the political spectrum at one time or another, but specifically when it comes to left-wing politics, there does seem to be this issue of material gain. Of course, also Israel, as we might come to later, but that does seem to be
But just to round up on this, I mean, you're not suggesting that Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic, though?
I wouldn't know if Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic. I don't think he is, but I couldn't possibly say that one way or the other.
No, well... Let's hope not.
Well, he's certainly taking steps to sort this out.
Just needs to be absolutely firm.
I think it's more likely that he just doesn't understand the depth of the problem. If we're going to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, which I think we probably can, as has been said by plenty of people, he has got a very long track record of opposing just about every sort of prejudice. So actually, why this one would be so different, I don't know.
No. Bish Bash Josh in the Sun.
Yes, indeed. So. I mean, firstly, it's amazing, isn't it? Anthony Joshua has now picked up the WBO title, World Heavyweight title. If he can get the WBC, he'll be the first undisputed World Heavyweight boxing champion since Lennox Lewis, 1999. It's that long ago? Huge achievement. Wow. I must admit, I have a cousin who does boxing and going. I mean, it's terrifying. Have you ever seen it live? It's terrifying. Oh my goodness! Like I kind of, a part of me is like, really? We're encouraging people to do this? It's sport? Could they not all just play football or something? But that's not to take away from what Anthony Joshua's achieved. It's an incredible... Well, and this one, a really toughly fought fight as well.
Very, very tough.
His previous fights...
First time it's not been a knockout, is it?
Yeah, his previous fights have ended early, as they do with a knockout. But this... I mean, every punch counted, every step counted.
But what I liked about it, as we said earlier on, that both AJ, as we know, but also Parker as well, were just seemed to be just gents, actually, which is very nice. You often don't get that, but they just seem.
Well, it can really deteriorate with the trash talking and get very ugly. But yeah, they were very professional, sportsmanlike, I thought.
Just like me and thee. Gillian, we're always very, very professional.
And only a few punches thrown, so
just in the break.
Right, we're going to take a break. Actually, I don't know if I want to now. Back with more with these two in a moment.